Here we go, the Running Raiders. So great to get back in here. TJ Caughell, Ani Sairam, Aden Hawes, and our special guest, Tez Allen.
Woo!
Tez, how are you this morning?
I'm pretty good. I'm feeling great, ready to go. Week till the first game. I'm ready.
What did you have to drink this morning?
Every morning I wake up and chug some water and then had a sip of orange juice and then I went and got a coffee and a muffin.
And was the coffee black?
Basically, it's like a dash of sugar. So pretty much.
You throw the sugar in or they
Nah, they do it. I go to the same spot, so then I just pull up. They know what I want. I know the exact amount it costs, $4.50 every time.
Where is it?
It's in Talent. It's called Ohana Coffee.
Ohana.
Right by our apartment.
Yes, you didn't know.
That's the Hawaiian. It's a Hawaiian word.
Hey, you ever seen
Japanese?
Lilo and Stitch? Ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten.
That sounds nice. Do you go there?
Yeah, I go there every morning too. Damn near.
Same one?
Yeah.
Do you ever see Tez there?
This one was the first time I seen him there. Actually, I usually just go right before class.
He usually beats you there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think so.
What time do you usually get up?
I usually walk there. I usually wake up at like 7:30. Wake up, stretch, chug my water like every morning, and then walk there by like 8.
Dang.
Walk back. There's always an old lady I always see walking. She got a little hot top hat on. She's always so happy to see me.
She is?
Yeah.
Why just a sip of orange juice though? Why not like a glass?
This morning or?
Yeah, is that like a regular
I don't know. I just poured a little bit. No, it's not a regular thing. Okay. I was at my girl's, so she had some orange juice. So I was like, let me have a little bit of that.
Good play. Good play.
Yeah, it's a good start. How long until you look at your screen?
I used to be a lot better at that, but I usually wake up, chug water, stretch, brush my teeth, and then probably look at the screen.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it's like check my email first because a lot of my professors will just send out emails like twice a week. So I got to check that. And then I'm so close to graduating, I'm just trying to be done. So I try to do my homework in the morning.
Seems pretty responsible.
Yeah, 6th year in college, man. I'm trying to get out of here. I got 2 weeks left and then one more class, so I'm done with my master's. So
wow. Yeah, good for you. Good for you. And then what's next with that?
MBA?
Well, yeah, I'll have my MBA. Hopefully, I'll be finishing in February, so I'll be done with that before we even finish our season, which is cool. So I'll just be focusing on the rest of the season. Hopefully, we're in the playoffs and the tournament, and I just won't be in school. But I don't know. I'm gonna have a business degree and my bachelor's degree. I could do something with the healthcare degree that I got the first time, but I'm trying to play, so that's the first thing, and then we'll see what goes on from there. I keep a job right now as a bartender and a server, so I just got that in my back pocket if I need.
And that's at Caldera?
Yeah, Caldera Brewery and Restaurant. That's a great job, man. Love it.
You are a great server, Tez.
I'm a pretty good server.
You take care of me.
How'd you get the Caldera position or job, whatever?
It's been cool because Josh, everybody knows who Josh is, right?
Josh Meyer.
Yeah.
Teammate, brother, roommate. Number 12.
Previous Running Raider guest.
Yes, sir. The manager there is the father of a ex-women's soccer player here that we all know. And so Josh, they were hanging out or talking or whatever and got him a job. And then a week later I was working there. And then we started last summer, worked the whole summer there. Manager's super cool. I mean, I had been going there too, so I kind of knew some of the people there. But yeah, a bunch of athletes work there. Manager's super cool, flexible with the schedule, so it's been solid. It's actually my first like actual restaurant job, so it was a little new at first, but it's super simple and it's just like a fun atmosphere to be around, perfect for college. And I used to always like wonder why people were like everyone should work in a restaurant. But now that I've worked there, I'm like, definitely makes sense. Like you learn a lot about people and how you should treat people that are taking care of you. You know what I mean?
Builds character.
For sure.
Yeah. No, that's really good for you.
Yeah, you got to respect the kitchen too because the people that are working back there is crazy, and the money wise, it's like it doesn't really seem fair because like the tips we get is a lot more than the people that are just busting their ass back there. So it puts a lot in perspective.
So they're working pretty fast to get the food out.
Yeah, and I mean in the summer it's like 100 degrees, pumping sweat back there, and they don't get tips. They don't get nothing of that. They just get the hourly wage, and they're working.
Who are the cooks?
The one who started there, his name was Chef David K. That's my guy, but he actually left at the end of this summer, so that was kind of a bummer. But the head chef now, so we got a head chef and then a sous chef. I don't know if you guys know how that works. So the sous chef's like assistant coach or but assistant chef. But so now the new one, he used to work at Caldera before the other guy was the head chef. His name's Joe. I can't think of his last name.
Shout out Joe.
We got Chef Joe, yep, and then sous chef Rudy, who is the man. That's Josh and I's guy. Cooks great stuff. Normally, the coolest part about that working there actually is like not a lot of restaurant places when you work there, you don't really get free food. Like you get a discount and pay for it, but every time you work, you get a free meal. You can take it home for free, which is also pretty unique for a place.
That's another couple hours of work, right?
Yeah, for real. Because it's good food too. It's not like fast food or anything. Like these are good meals. Aden knows about that burger.
It's different.
Yeah, we got all that. Fish and chips, specialty salads.
Pro tip: put truffle oil on the burger.
Is that on the menu?
You
Truffle
can.
oil?
We used to have a truffle burger, which people will be like, they'll remember, be like, y'all don't do the truffle burger anymore. No, but you can add it, so it's the same thing. But
avocado,
because we do the.
That sounds good. I like truffles.
You can do the truffle with the mac and cheese too, which is crazy. You also get a free beer every time you work. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if you work a night shift, you get off. Like when everything's said and done on the weekends, you're probably getting off at like 10. Like cleaning and silverware and all that, you get a free shift beer or two.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a good hookup.
Yeah,
right there.
it's like specialty beer too, like award-winning beer.
It's one of the best burgers I've ever had.
Yeah, that's a statement.
Yeah,
It is a statement.
like,
yeah,
it's legit.
I've eaten a couple times. I liked everything I had too. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's people come in for the burger a lot. There's like a few things they come in for: the burger, the mahi tacos, which are cool. I think they're a little overrated. Don't let Chef Joe hear that, but
do you like other fish tacos at other places, or do you not like fish tacos?
I love fish. I like fish tacos, but those aren't the best ones I've ever had. But around here, they're probably the best. I don't even know who else does fish tacos around here, really.
I think Louis has some, right? Didn't
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They definitely do have some kind of fish tacos.
we took that recruit down there? Didn't one of us get those? Zozel or me? Or was I just thinking about it? I think I was just thinking.
Louis is cool though. I like they got it's a good vibe in there, and they got the outdoor seating over there.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah.
Oh, you're sitting by the water, by
Yeah,
the creek.
It was the day that the football game got all that rain.
Man.
It was like the first rain in a while.
and
Yeah,
the thunderstorm too, right?
Yeah, and we
That was crazy.
just missed it. Like we ate and there was no rain, and then right when we were leaving, it started raining.
That's tight.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about your childhood growing up. What was it like in your house, and what did you do?
So I was born in Carson City, Nevada. My father, Roswell Allen, and my mother, Kaylee Rooker now. So my parents are split up. They've been split for a while, since I was like elementary, middle school, like 5th, 6th grade, somewhere in there. But my dad's from Swindon, England, so he's got a different childhood. My brother, I got 2 blood siblings and 6 step siblings now, so kind of a different situation going on there. But my brother was born in Wales, so my parents spent some time over in the UK together because that's where my dad's from. So originally I was supposed to be born there, but then they came back, had my sister who's a little older than me, and then me. And then I spent a little time over there because they were kind of traveling back and forth trying to figure it out. So I probably spent like 6 months to a year when I was super little. Don't remember it at all, but over there in Swindon, England. But then grew up in Carson City, kind of regular lifestyle, good town, pretty safe, cool. Spent a lot of time in Reno once my parents split because that's where my dad was. So I'd go week to week, splitting it up like that.
So
Yeah, just always loved sports. Never really wanted to do anything else. I would always just ask my mom for a ball and then go figure something out. Um, had a best friend that was like 6 houses down from me. Is still my best friend to this day. So that was cool. I was always at his house. When things were going on at my house, I would always have somewhere to go. So that was cool.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is he now?
He was a baseball player. He's a class older than me. His name's Caughell. Shout out my guy. He actually played at Menlo, who we're about to play next week.
Yeah.
He went to a JUCO first, and then he played at Menlo. But he's back in Carson right now. I think he's coaching baseball or doing something like that. He's trying to get a job with the Warriors. He loves the Warriors. He's like a super smart sports guy. Like you could ask him anything, and you could ask him who won the Super Bowl in 1968. He would know.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's pretty random.
Well, that was the Jets, wasn't it?
I have no
Colts.
idea.
Jets or Colts in 68?
You should get a job with the
I
Warriors.
think it's one of those two. Will they hire me? Head coach?
We won't let them hire you. We like you too much.
So it was just kind of natural for you, like picking up a ball, or was that something your dad or mom
Yeah,
tried to get you on?
well, I mean, they don't play much basketball in England, so I mean, my dad didn't play basketball growing up. He played soccer. My dad loves soccer. He played rugby, cricket, so all that stuff, which was cool for me growing up. I mean, I played all sports growing up: soccer, basketball, baseball, football. But I just always liked basketball. I'm not exactly sure where that came from. My mom loves baseball. She was super sad when I gave that up. She's a huge Dodgers fan. That's why I love the Dodgers.
Boo.
She's from LA. Yeah, we went out sad this year, but that's all right.
You guys were so talented.
I know.
Padres were
Every year we're talented. Yeah, it's tough, but
Not as sad as the Giants. It's okay.
you guys have won 3 World Series in the past 15 years, so it's all
I'm
right.
spoiled.
But yeah, I just loved basketball. I played all 3 all the way up until high school. And I just loved it, like the tournaments, AAU, stuff like that. I used to love Paul Pierce and Steve Nash. My dad used to get into it. He was like learning the game. He started coaching with my buddy Kyle's dad, Kevin. So I was playing rec ball in like first grade, faking as a third grader. So playing like that, switching teams, I'd play 2 games a weekend just so I could play both teams. So that was cool. Started playing AAU at a really young age. Like my dad would take me up to Reno, which is just, like Carson City to Reno is like a 20, 30-minute drive. There's a big AAU program there called Reno Ballers. So every Saturday they got ball handling 7 a.m. So I'm waking up at 6 a.m. as a second grader to go work on ball handling for an hour. And then I'd have practice in Reno like 2 or 3 times a week. And my dad was a professor at University of Nevada, Reno at night. So it'd be perfect. I'd be practicing there and then he'd come pick me up. Then we go back to Carson and then we do it again. But yeah, I think I kind of just started choosing basketball like towards 7th, 8th grade. All my friends were really taller than me. I was always skinny. So I was kind of the guard. I always played point guard growing up. And I just liked getting people open, passing. That's still how I like to play the game. And I didn't hit my growth spurt till like right after 7th grade. So like I was a starting one, probably, I don't even know how tall you are back then. But then by 8th grade, I was like 6'2". And my foot grew to like a 14 by 8th grade. Yeah, I had this huge foot, 14. And then by a freshman, I was 6'4", 6'5". So I haven't really grown that much since then. But that's when I started getting tall. And that's when I kind of, because I was a really good baseball player. Like everybody's like, keep playing baseball, keep playing baseball. And I liked it, and I liked playing shortstop, playing in the field, and then I got super tall, and I got a lot harder when I got super tall. So yeah, I kind of called it quits there. I did play 1 summer league baseball season for high school, and that was fun. It was cool, but I hated being in the cold. I always liked being in the gym. I hated being in the cold. I did throw a no-hitter, though, in a summer league high school game.
Wow.
Wouldn't it be pretty warm in the summer?
Yeah, but not in the spring in Nevada. When the actual baseball season is in the spring.
Important question. Is it Nevada or Nevada?
It's Nevada.
So,
unless you're from the South and you want
if
to.
anybody ever says Nevada, you're like, where?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care, but people do take that to heart for sure.
It's like some people say Oregon.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is wrong with you?
I know that. It's so weird. They're like Nevada, but it's like,
I hear so many people say it like that.
yeah, almost any like sports broadcaster will like say it because it's not like that big of a school. Like to us, it is, but you like go anywhere past the Midwest, they're like, where's Nevada? And they all think it's Las Vegas,
Yeah.
but it's not. Even though we have the way better school for almost everything.
Well, UNLV used to be like a monster in hoops.
In hoops, yeah.
University of Nevada, people think that's in Las Vegas.
For the most part, or like anytime you like say I'm from Nevada, they're like, oh, how far from Vegas? It's like I live in northern Nevada. It's an 8-hour drive to Vegas, which is really far. So yeah, Vegas is southern Nevada, which people don't really get, but
Seems like there aren't really a whole lot of like major cities outside of Reno and Vegas, like a lot of like desert other than that.
there isn't at all. I mean, and Reno, Reno's growing crazy right now. It is the biggest little city in the world, but it's Reno, Tahoe. Tahoe's not like major city really though. It's kind of just
size, though.
yeah. Well, the lake's a big size, and then all this
a lot of stuff around it.
all the surrounding stuff, yeah. But that's kind of not really like. It's kind of. I wouldn't say a lot of younger people are like, oh, let's go to Tahoe, to do like fun stuff. Yeah. It is, but it's
definitely got to be outdoorsy to want to go there.
Yeah, it's very expensive too.
Yeah. I just think that's interesting about Nevada, not Nevada, just because, like I was saying, there's only those two cities. Like even in a small state like Oregon, like you have Portland, you have Salem, you have Eugene, you have Medford. You know what I mean? It's like Nevada, there's really only like Reno, Carson City, like Vegas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a desert. There's just a lot of space, and I mean that's kind of why I like it because you can be. That's why I like Reno. It's like you're in the city, casinos, gambling, all that. Like if that's what you're into, bars, hotels, nice casinos. But then you drive 20 minutes, you're at one of the most beautiful lakes in the world in Lake Tahoe. Or you can go. I mean, we live right by the Sierra Nevadas. You can go ski at like some of the best mountains in the world. You can hike. You can do that. So that's why I think it's cool. It's kind of a spot where you can do. It's for everybody, really. Like you can do what you want to do.
That's like my favorite hotel, Sierra Nevada Hotel.
Really?
In Reno, yeah.
I don't think I've ever even seen there, but
you never seen it?
There's so many hotels there.
It's like the biggest one.
It's not called Sierra Nevada then.
Yeah, it is. What's the biggest one called?
GSR. Biggest one, like tallest one?
Yeah.
Either the Atlantis, the Grand Sierra Resort.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Grand Sierra.
Oh, yeah. That used to be called the Hilton until Paris Hilton got in all that trouble.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They changed it because of that?
It was like right around that time, so there's something going on. Obviously, money's probably involved first, but it used to be called the Hilton, yeah.
Yeah, that one's really nice.
Yeah, that place is dope. They got the go-karts, they got the laser tag.
Yeah.
They got the golfing range where you hit the balls into the water and stuff.
Yeah, it isn't like one of those Vegas hotels where it's like crazy, crazy huge. It's like a good size, like really nice pool.
Yeah, the pool is crazy there. Yeah, it's brand new.
The nicest pool.
Yeah.
You grew up in a big city or small city?
Carson City, it's the capital of Nevada. It's probably 66,000 people there, maybe growing. Kit Carson, that's what it's named after. Who was like I don't want to mess up the word for him, but a pioneer in Nevada, was doing all the mining stuff, kind of explored that area. So that's why it's named Carson. So it's not that big, but I mean,
comparing it to Ashland.
Well, it's a lot bigger than Ashland. Ashland's what, 20,000 people?
Right around
so,
I think,
yeah. And then you got Reno, that's just right there on the freeway. So, the cool thing about Carson is it's right in between Reno and Tahoe. So either way you're going, you can go to Reno, you can go to Tahoe. So I mean, it is kind of small, a little country stylish, kind of. Got a lot of different kind of people there, though. I would say it's like almost half like Mexican population now, which is fine, which is cool. I mean, the high school is like super. I don't even know how to explain it really. Like our rival school is like super, like super, super country. We call them like they would be driving tractors to school like that.
Like,
And then,
literally?
yeah, I swear to God, I used to have an ex-girlfriend who went there. It's called Douglas High School. It's like 20 minutes south of Carson. So if you keep going through Carson, like opposite way of Reno, yeah, like super, they call it like the Ranchos, super good football team. Like always crazy good. But yeah, driving tractors to school, smells like cows when you pull up to the game. Game would be packed. One time I missed a dunk there on a breakaway. It was tough.
Did they tell you about it?
Oh, I didn't hear the end of that one. Yeah, it was crazy. But then that's what I was gonna say. Like, and then you come back to Carson, and it's kind of a little more split, like a little country. But then it goes that, and then you get to Reno, and it's completely different, way more diverse. And I spent a lot of time there. I almost transferred to a school in Reno, which I wanted to do, kind of. But I'm happy I didn't because we ended up winning the regional championship the next year. But yeah, I wanted to move up there to go play with one of my buddies, but my mom wasn't having that.
She said, no way.
She said, no way. My mom was always big on like sticking things out, kind of like finish what you started. And there's people that help you do things and you owe it to them to kind of put it together. And I think that always kind of stuck with me. Like even coming here, like I never thought I'd be here for 6 years. You know what I mean? Ever. Like I had other offers. I had wanted like bigger ambitions. I mean, I love the school. It's good level of basketball, but everyone wants to be a D1 basketball player. And I felt like I was. I had other D2 offers and stuff like that, but financially it didn't make sense at all. And I always wanted to, not have my parents have to pay for college or like worry about it. So when I got that opportunity, I just jumped on it. And then there were some instances where it got tough here, and I thought about it and always thought I could play at a higher level, and thought about leaving and doing this. Or because the first thing that happened to me when I came up here was I broke my foot like the second practice we had as a freshman. And I thought I was going to play a lot. It sounded like I was going to play a lot. We were really small, so I was going to have to help out down low a little bit. Broke my foot, was on a scooter for like 8 weeks. That's how everybody knew me around here when I first came up here. Yeah. I was riding this big guy on this little scooter. Had a little bell on it too. I'm like bombing down the hills from class and stuff. So yeah, that was tough. So I ended up medical redshirting, and then that kind of set everything up. So I didn't really know what I was going to do, but then I played a year, loved it, had great teammates. Thought about leaving at some point, you know what I mean? But I always thought I could play at a higher level, and just kept going, kept working. But then you kind of start to see like the benefits of just sticking it out, and working hard for the people that, like want you, that make you feel wanted. So that was cool. And I owe a lot to Coach Mack for that, because he always believed in me a lot, for sure. So yeah, I think I've gotten a lot out of just sticking it out. That's always something I kind of relate to my mom, which I love her for that.
Yeah. I think I speak for all of us that when I say that we're really happy you're here. We're glad you're here and you stuck it out. And I have no doubt that you could play at a higher level, but it's also about the experiences too, and you get to be the guy. So that's got to be kind of nice.
For sure. It's, there's good players everywhere in basketball, like I know some dudes playing D3 that could play at other levels, you know what I mean? And I know some D1 players that probably shouldn't be there, but I mean, it's all about the opportunity and what you do with it, and I mean, I'm happy I came here because I know so many people from this area now that's like a family to me. I met my girlfriend here. Her family's like family to me. And it's just been great. Like I'm going to leave here with 2 degrees, no debt. Hopefully being All-American at the end of this year. That's been a goal of mine. That's kind of always what kept me coming back. It's like, oh, you think you're good enough to play at the next level, but you haven't been an All-American here yet. So just do that. Like that's what I want to prove to myself, and to other people. So it's cool. I met a lot of people here that'll be like at my wedding, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's the great part about college basketball. It's like you meet new people every year. Like you 3, I just met y'all, but it feels like I've known you for a way longer than that. And I mean, there's kids that when I was a freshman, they're over there playing overseas right now as pros, and following them and knowing that I got this I got a community in Nevada that I love and support and that wants me to do well. Now I got a whole community up here, which is great. And like on the school wise, I think school's always been a big thing for me and like my family. My mom didn't go to college. She's got a great job. She didn't, obviously back then things were different. But my dad has a really good academic background, PhD. And he always was like just pushing me, just like, if you don't know what you want to do, just keep going. Like you'll figure it out. Like you're a smart kid. And that's why SOU, for people that really don't know what they want to do, I think SOU is perfect because you're in small classes. You get to, the teacher, you're going to have face-to-face interactions with your teacher because it's not you're not going into a class with 500 people and one speaker where you're just sitting in the back on your phone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's why it's cool. Like my freshman and sophomore years before the COVID situation, it was awesome. Like being on the campus, met a bunch of people. I didn't know what my major was going to be right away. So I was just taking a bunch of random classes, doing business stuff, doing health stuff like that. And my mom would still check my grades up here. Yeah.
That's a good mom.
And it's crazy though, because I graduated high school with like a 4.1 and she's still just up here checking my grades.
Well, how do you think you got a 4.1?
Yeah, it's
support system like that.
Yeah, I'm blessed, man. I've always been good at school. It came easy to me. So I guess I shouldn't say that. I mean, I work hard, but I know it's harder for others. So I always try to keep that in the back of my mind. And I've always been good about just not worrying. Like I always feel like I can figure it out. So that's always helped me through college. Because if you just always know like, oh, I'm gonna get it done, or I gotta get it done, and that's just kind of how I went about everything. Like with my foot injury, like I went through a little hard time when that happened because I thought I was gonna come up here, be the freshman of the year in the conference, kill everything, and then that just put everything into perspective. But it really was a blessing because I got a free year of college out of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that whole first year, I was just working out, doing school, meeting a bunch of cool people. And at that point, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm gonna get a master's degree out of this. I was like, damn, I'm not playing this year. Blah blah blah. I'm just sitting here wasting time. That's what it felt like right away. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, I really got. Now I'm gonna get a master's degree and then probably be a lot better at hoop than I would have been if I was just played it right away. So that's why I was talking to Bryce Dyer about it. I was like, bro, just take advantage of this. Like you're getting reps against really good players every day. And like you could play, like you're good enough to play. You compete every day, but it's like, just do it, ride it out. You'll see later, like why that's important. And he already has his sights set on that master's degree. So that's cool. And it's been cool for me to like go from like the rookie to the vet, because when I came in, I was young and thought I was hot shit. Mm-hmm. And I had older players talking to me like that, like a couple times put me in my place, which was I needed at that point in my life. So that's been cool. And now I'm the older guy, which is crazy. Went really fast. And then the COVID thing happened, so it kind of expedited that. Mm-hmm. Like I went from a sophomore, we were in the national tournament, won our first round game. Then that Rudy Gobert situation happened that night. We were supposed to play the 2 days after that, so we woke up and had practice. We were watching the other games, and they canceled it, put us on a plane back home. And then all of a sudden, I'm a senior in school, and everything starts back again,
Yeah.
So
that's horrible.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was a crazy time. But we really felt like we could have won the national championship that year. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were rolling. We were 7th or 8th in the country going into that. 2 teams ranked higher than us were in our conference. We had just beat one of them. We saw who we were playing the next round. Felt like we would have won that one easy. We would have ran into Morningside, who was really good. So if we would have beat them, probably would have faced off with OIT or C of I in the Final Four, which would have been awesome. Yeah, which makes me really want to get back there because that's high-level basketball for sure.
Yeah. It can be really hard to get past something like that, like to be there and have it taken away without, completely out of your control.
Yeah, it was. I mean, obviously, the COVID thing was like a little scary, like right away. Obviously looking back, you're like, why should we have freaked out like that? And It's
Right.
like, I don't know, but I really felt for the seniors, because they worked for that and they were killing. We had Tate Hoffman, Aaron Borich, Jordan Hunt, all have played professional basketball. And there was more seniors on that team too. But yeah, it's like, it's one thing to lose and know that your season's over,
Right.
but we won that game and we were there. It's like, we're just going to fly back
Right.
without losing. It's like, yeah, it was a crazy situation because the day before they had every single team in one room together. But then now they're just sending all of us home. It's like, it doesn't really make sense. Just let us finish. You know what I
Right.
mean? It
Yeah,
would have been
right.
3 more days.
Everyone's been exposed already.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and we didn't know what was going on then because they told us they're like, tomorrow, nobody but family can come to the game. That's what they said first. And then this was like the time when like the Big Ten got canceled first, or whoever got canceled first, when it started happening.
Big Ten, yeah.
Started happening like that, and then they just shut it off. But yeah, it was crazy. It was really weird time. The events that took place after that were pretty fun. But
What do you mean by that?
We found that out when we were practicing. And it's kind of a cool place. It was in Sioux Falls. It's the G League place for the Heat, I think. You guys have probably seen it in a tournament. Super cool court. But the surrounding area is a bunch of practice courts, which I think a lot of those G League places are like complexes like that have. So all the teams found out at the same time, and everybody's freaking out. I don't want to get sick or whatever. What's going on? So everybody's like freaking out, and we get in the vans. We go back to the hotel. Our coach pulls us in, like trying to explain it the best way he can. And we had a lot of personalities on that team. And there was a bar like 20 feet from the hotel. So when that news broke out, everyone went to the bar. But we had a flight. Our coach got us a flight because he didn't know what was going to happen. So he's like, we got to get home. So we had a flight at like 6 p.m., but that was after like 3 hours at a bar with our whole team. So that was pretty interesting.
Was Mac in there with you?
He was not.
Dang it.
That would have been funny, yeah. But yeah, I'll never forget that. I will never forget that place, the people there. It was just a really weird time, like that whole COVID situation. But yeah, for the seniors, that was tough, especially because we felt like we were gonna win it. Like that was a year, and that was like the year before that. We were solid, we were good. But it was just a year where everybody bought in. You know what I mean? There wasn't a person on the bench who didn't think we could win it all. And we played like 9 deep. We had big guys. We had guards. I started I was a sophomore then. We had Taryn Bradford was our point guard. He was really good. I think Aaron Board shot like 44 from 3 that year. And then we had 2 big guys who were professional players. So it was awesome. It was a lot of fun to be around. Yeah, I miss those guys for sure.
Yeah.
But it's just been cool. Like I'm seeing the transformation from all that to now Coach Z coming in, which I didn't know what it was going to be like, because I've had the same coach for 5 years,
right?
4, and then unfortunately what happened last year. But it's been cool. Like you guys have done a great job, like collectively, I think. So it's been fun to see all that. Yeah, just like I said, meeting all the different people. I think that's what's the best part for me is like everyone's so much like coming here for basketball. It's not really like the biggest basketball school, I would say. Like SOU is probably more known for football, but I think it's trending in that direction to like, I think basketball is about to take off, especially like the more years you guys spend here. I think it's got a lot of room. Like there's no reason Ashland can't be a basketball town.
Right.
There's no reason. Brand new gym. Cool logo, cool school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Coach Zozel, I think he's a brilliant basketball mind. He obviously has a lot going on up there. You can tell just by the way he coaches and all the stuff we do. And he has a real sense of, he's a Raider. He loves Southern Oregon. I love Southern Oregon. I believe in it. I'm really cherish my experience here and just that feel like these guys love it. Our whole staff. And so there's a little bit of continuity there where he's wanting to run some of his stuff and do things his way, but he still cares about the tradition and the history. And I remember when I first met you, I think it was at Coach Mack's retirement party, or was that Caldera? Like I met you, I talked to you a couple times that weekend. And I remember that I think I was with Josh Harbert or Hamilton when I talked to you one time, and you're like, "Oh, I know who you guys are," you know, and maybe it was just a little ego boost, like, "Oh, someone remembers me, you know, this is great." But it was also a sense of, I was like, "Man, he really talking about you, like you care about the tradition and you know your history, and you know, and to me, that's really important." I was always someone who, growing up, you know, loved researching basketball and baseball and football. I was into all the sports, but, you know, knew all the Hall of Famers and knew all the stats and all that stuff. So I really, I liked you right away, you know, and respected the fact that you cared about those things. And is that something that has always been important to you? You know, knowing about the game and respecting the game and those that came before you, or is that something that developed as you got older?
I would like to say always. People always tell me, like people that are close to me, that like I have a great memory for certain things, and I always be like, "What? You're just making stuff up?" Like just because I know that's something that happened. That's like, but as I've gotten older, I think that's like true. I mean, I remember a lot of weird things, and I always, like every time I walk in that locker room, I look at that wall, you know what I mean? And I see all those names on there. Like, I'm not going to forget those names. I can almost tell you like the names in order, which is awesome. I can credit Coach Mack for telling me a lot about, you know, the history, because he spent a lot of time here, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I learned a lot from him. But I think it's important for anybody to understand what's happened before you, who's been there before you. When you're going to spend a lot of time and put a lot of effort into somewhere where you're at, it's like, why would you not want to know what's going on, or what you can do to add to it? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's about the relationships and the things like that. Like, we're not going to remember who wins next week, but I'm going to remember this podcast. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the podcast will always be here and stuff like that. It's like, the practices every day, you're going to think about that. You know, you're going to think about what you did after practice with your boys. So I always think about that. Like I'd imagine the stuff that you guys did as teammates, you know what I mean? Like, I know you guys think about that.
Oh yeah.
So I think I always try to keep that in perspective, and I try to tell the younger guys, like, don't matter if you play 20 minutes, 15, 0, like, it's going to matter, like, what this team does for you later in your life. You know what I mean? Does it help you be a better dad or whatever it is? Like, I think being part of a team, being part of a university, like I always just dreamed of being a college basketball player. Like, yeah, I'm not a D1 player, but I'm still I'm on a scholarship. I'm a basketball player. Like, that's always what I wanted to do. Yeah. And so I try to think about that. But yeah, like you said, I think it's important to recognize the people that were there and stuff like that. And yeah, I just love sports, like history, stuff like that. Like, that's all I do basically, is watch film, watch other sports. I don't know much about football, but I'm getting there.
You're elite. I know that you, obviously there's D1 and NBA and pro and all that, but when you really sit back and look at it, the number, and I'm not going to have these exact numbers, but the percentage of people in the world who are scholarship college athletes who have a master's degree, you're not quite there yet, but I mean, you're top 1% of the world.
Right.
You know, the number of kids that are really going for it. And everyone always wants to be Division I, or most people want to be Division I growing up, or play at the highest level, play in the NBA or NFL, or, you know, whatever it is. But the experience that you have here is, in my mind, can be even better than at those places. So I think you've done very well for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. Like, a smaller place, you can get more out of, like, really having those one-on-one, like, relationships. And it's not so much about the money and branding and things like that, especially these days. It's like, that coach might want you, but Like, does he want you because of the stars you have behind your name, or does he was like really think you're that good of a player, or does he like you as a person, you know? And another thing is, like, I've heard from some like FIBA scouts and things like that, and it's they'll call me, and the first thing they say to me is, I'm contacting you because of not only your athletic achievements, but your academics. Like, I think that's super important. So it's like you can find other ways, like if you're not 6'8" and super athletic and can dunk everything, to stick out, you know what I mean? And so I think that's important. Like, sometimes I'm like, is this GPA I have worth it? And then I hear things like that, and it's like, wow, people are actually looking at that, you know what I mean? So like all that scholar athlete stuff, like at the end of the day, it does matter. It's gonna be on your resume, and that can help you athletically and professionally. So that's cool. That was something that really stood out to me this past summer. It's like, oh, keep going. Like, you're almost done academically. Like, don't stop. Because hopefully I finished the master's with a 4.0 too. So we'll see. We will see about that.
Good luck on that.
Yeah, I got 2 weeks and then one more class, so I should be able to get it done. I do have a 16-page paper due next week after our first game, so we'll see how that goes.
16?
16, I don't know.
Rough.
God.
We did a 30 in the master's program here, the MAT program, and I thought, no way I could ever do something like that. But once you get into it, and they teach you how to write it, and
right.
You get to a point, and you're probably there, where it's almost harder to write a short paper than it is to write a long paper if you're really doing it well and putting the research into it.
Yeah, that's a cool part about grad school, is it's like you're really allowed to put your own spin on things, you know. It's not so much like just straight up test, multiple choice kind of thing. It's more like adding your own, you know, where you get your evidence from, what you're citing and how you analyze that. So that's what's been cool for me. So it's like none of that stuff where you're just like, I'm never going to use this. It's like, I'm probably actually, like, this is a good discussion that'll help me. Like, my paper's about, it's a pretty broad topic. It's about diversity in a workplace. So it's like, you could talk about anything really, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been cool. It's a little different than the undergrad, which makes it a lot easier to do.
Am I correct in understanding that you're of mixed race?
Yes, very. So like I said, my dad is from England. My dad is like half black, half European, or half white. My mom is white. She's from LA. So my dad, I don't know how much African American I have in me. Probably around 25%, maybe a little less. My dad's dad was born in the West Indies. So, yeah.
Where exactly? Do you know?
I forget. A lot of that family history is kind of still unresolved. So I'm not exactly sure. I just know West Indies area, and he actually just passed away. I got a tattoo for him right here, actually.
Your grandfather?
Yeah, his name's Roy. I have two middle names. My name's Terrence Matthew Roy Allen. So I got Roy in there. That's my dad's middle name. And then my brother Isaac, one of his middle names is Roy as well. So yeah, that's my dad's dad, and he moved to England after he was in the Air Force for a while. But yeah, that's where the mix comes in from there.
So I have two mixed race children.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a very white town, and I grew up very white,
right?
You know, with a lot of misunderstandings about the world, you know, and I've learned a lot as I've grown up.
Right.
So how is the vibe? How's the vibe in the Rogue Valley and Ashland for people of color, mixed race people?
It's not great. I'll just start there. Like it isn't in a lot of places in the world. I have a lot of African American friends, spent a lot of time with them. Like my brother's my first roommate outside of the dorms. His name's Kerry Cook. He was on the team with me. He taught me a lot. And you learn a lot just from being around, you know, diverse people, and how just from the color of the skin they get treated different, things like that. I think around here it's kind of, there's a lot of old people, you know. This is a place where a huge, you know, elderly population. So it's kind of, I'm not sure where it helping it would start. Obviously, Oregon has a history of some bad things going on, so it'd be hard to unroot all that. But I'm not even really sure. I think it's not horrible, but I think that SOU could do a little bit better job trying to recruit, more diverse, adding some things that could bring in different types of people, and change the food up. I think that would be big. Like the food is not the best in this area.
Tell me
not
about
that changes.
What kind of food do we need in here?
I don't know. Like it's.
Because a lot of people would say there's a lot of good food choices.
You think so?
That before. There's just a lot of nice restaurants and
Yeah.
like fine dining establishments.
I feel that, but it's like the people that you see in those places are the same type of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
It's like all the nice places are super expensive. Not really for if we're talking college students, like anywhere that you go to eat that's good food or different, or not Wendy's, like that's the only fast food place in Ashland, or Wendy's and Taco Bell. And now we got Mod Pizza, so shout out Mod Pizza.
Yeah, I like
that's kind of a big place. Yeah.
Isn't that more of just like a demographic thing? Like maybe there just isn't a lot of diversity in Ashland and Medford?
No, definitely. There definitely isn't. But I think, I don't know, the numbers could be changing, but
the percentage of Black people in the Rogue Valley is very small.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I worked in a diversity department in Tacoma when I worked at the community college up there, and I learned a lot about Oregon that I didn't know growing up in Oregon. I spent my first 25 years here.
Right.
And we went to a conference on race in Portland, and the first speaker, she was phenomenal, but she was dropping all these facts like up through the 2000s. It was still on the books that is illegal to live in Oregon and be Black. Like it was like 2010 when that went off. Like it wasn't being enforced at that point. But I was just like mind blown by that, that there was, not just racism here, but it was literally written into the state constitution.
Yeah.
These things. And it was just like growing up here, being a white person in an almost completely white town, I had no like frame of reference or understanding of any of those things. So I try and learn as much as I can about our history. And
yeah, I think that's like we all know like the COVID time was different and all the things that were going on, like George Floyd and Tamir Rice and all those situations. But even like when I first came up here, I would learn about like there's still like KKK remnants like 30 miles north like of Central Point. Like it's not that far, and it wasn't that long ago, you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's no way, it's just not apparent anymore, which is horrible to think about, but you have to think about it if you want to be able to work towards a solution. But yeah, I think like driving around, there used to be this little gym they made out towards White City. And, you go out there and you see trucks with crazy flags and
Confederate flags.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everywhere. Stickers, I thought that I never noticed before, like all the, riots and the divide, the more like polarizing divide that we've had in the last couple of years. Like, did people always just drive around with flags on their trucks, or like, is that more of a new thing? Like, do you guys see more of that?
I've had the same question. I've noticed more, but I asked myself, like, was that always there and I just didn't realize it because I was unaware, or are people like flying them more?
I thought like a year ago or like a year and a half ago, everywhere I go, I'm just seeing like people are like just want to put their opinion out there, or this, because no matter what, like if you hang something from your truck, someone's gonna have a reaction to it, and it's like, what are you trying to do with that? Like, it can't help anything. It's like, oh, it doesn't really mean that. Like people will say the Confederate flag doesn't tie into racism. It's like, so what does it do for you? That's what I like try to ask. And it's like, oh, it's about the history. It's about the people that were there before. And it's like, well, what about the people that built this country that were shipped here to do that? And it's like, it does have to do with racism because that's part of the context of the flag that you're portraying. So
you were fighting to maintain the slavery.
Yeah, right. So it's
that's
like,
what your side was fighting for.
Yeah, that's what I'd always had, like, I can't stand that stuff. Like, it drives me crazy. Like, I used to want to be a writer, and I used to always write about, things like that and discrimination and atonement, which I think is a word that people should know more about. And it's just sad, man. Like, people think it was so long ago when, like, discrimination and segregation was part of history, but it's like not that far. Like, we're not that far out of that time, and there's
very recent.
People talking about that coming back. Like, that's in the news. That's a news story, like, recently, that there's like politicians thinking about that, which is just like disheartening. Seems like we're going in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? And how do we help that? Like, how does someone who has a little black in him but looks white as hell, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's when you kind of look at the world, and it's just like, I'm going to keep trying to help, one relationship at a time. And I think that's the best approach you can have.
I'm hopeful that we're moving in the right direction.
You think so?
I think some things are going in the right direction. I think some of the division that's happened in the last few years has definitely set us back. Like you're saying with the flying the flags, I don't think there's any reason to fly a Confederate flag. That's my own personal feeling. But
Right.
if you're not in the South and flying a Confederate flag, to me, if I see that, I immediately think you hate black people.
Yeah.
Like, that's my first thought when I see that. If you're in Oregon flying a Confederate flag, like, if you're so proud of the South, then you should be living in the South. You know what I mean?
Right.
If that's like your reason for it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't say that's justified.
Well, and it's not like they don't know that that's a polar thing. Like, that's a polar
Right.
symbol. So you're going to get a polar reaction. That's,
Right.
That's what I think. It's like, that's on one extreme of a continuum. That's part of our society and one of the biggest parts and the biggest problem,
Right.
So I think you're right. That's what I think too. And it's hard not to have that reaction. So it's like, when you try to think of those kinds of people, it's like, what's going on in their brain? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, if they see a Black Lives Matter sign, what do they, like, you hear people say, oh, only Black Lives Matter? And like, no, that's not what it means. Like, I get that there's money behind all that and how people don't like some part of that message. But it's not saying that other lives don't matter. It's just saying, recognize that certain things happen to certain people for reasons that shouldn't be happening. And that's what it's about. It's not about your life doesn't matter.
Right. Obviously, everyone's life matters.
Exactly.
Everyone's a valuable human being in God's eyes. But yeah, I guess we don't need to get too deep into that. But it's interesting to see how people react, and that's definitely something I've learned about Oregon. But my hope is that we can continue to grow and get better and have conversations and educate and find more way to bring a diverse population into Oregon.
Yeah, I think when the George Floyd thing happened, there was a big protest downtown Ashland. And I would say a majority of the people protesting were white, which is a lot of people here are white. But then the next day there was a protest in opposition of the people who were protesting. And then there was like a standoff between the two. And that was happening in multiple cities around here, which is just interesting to see how that video that everybody saw, some people still aren't just wanting to help the people who are suffering from videos like that we see all the time.
Right.
Which is, I want to say we're going in the right direction, and I think young people are helping that. And I think young people should have a little more power. And I think figuring out how to give young people more power is a key part of moving this nation and the world forward, for sure. because we've been doing the same thing for a long time. So I
Yeah.
think it's time for some other ways of thinking to step in. And I'm not saying I know how to do that, but I think there are some young people with great ideas that do. And I'm not saying they're all black people or brown people. It's, there's all types of different people that are younger and have different ways of thinking and recognize what's going on isn't right. So I think that's part of helping it.
Which is why diversity is super important, because you get different ideology and different,
Ideas.
ways to improve things, because not everyone is the same, and is the same background and the same upbringing, which leads to positive change.
Yeah, and I've always felt like my mom or older people would say, like, you're too young, or you don't have the experience for that. And I understand that to some degree, but it's also like, okay, well, maybe you're too old, or maybe you have experienced the same thing so many times that you
Right,
like
need a refresher.
Yeah, it's like, when coaches get older, they're kind of more calm, They
Mhm.
don't light up like they normally do. And so some things can get swept under the rug, like their discipline might fall off or things like that. And that's the same with everything. So it's like we got the same kinds of people making the same kinds of decisions and floating over things that other people want to see change. So you're right about that, Aden. It's like, and diversity in age, diversity in, all different types of things matters for sure.
I feel like our coaching staff's pretty diverse too. I feel like just like sharing ideas or like having different perspectives really help us too.
Mhm.
And I feel like we're probably one of the most diverse in probably like the school, I would say, like coaching staff wise.
Of ideas of race.
Race, age, everything.
Race. We're kind of all white except for you, right?
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, that's what I think. But I do
Yeah.
believe it's a real diversity of ideas that are, and Coach Sozol is really advocates a diversity of ideas, and he wants all perspectives, and he's
Yeah, that's one of the main things I've noticed about Coach Z. It's like he's super, I don't even know the best word. He's like open-minded, maybe, like somewhere around there. It's kind of just like he hears something and he doesn't react right away. He just lets it play out, sees what happens. And I love that about that guy. It's like he'll just, even if it ticks him off, you're not gonna notice right away, or
Right.
you might, but that's only in the extreme situations. You know what I mean?
Famous Zozel quote: "He'll try anything 3 times." You heard that? Anything.
I've heard that one. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that's super important as a coach, or like people that's around, younger people, because that's what like puts fear and like anxiousness in the players and like students, is like when it might not even be your fault, but like one of your teammates or a student comes in and that's going to take your coach or your student off. But if the person is able to like go around that, or like see every different aspect to it and how it might help, or, oh, this isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like I can just say one thing and move on,
Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
Yeah, that is. Yesterday, or not yesterday, Wednesday would be. There was like a mental health coach who came and talked to all the athletic staff, and Coach Coast was her name, and she was saying how a really important thing that helps student athletes with their mental health and mental well-being is having a coach or coaches who are like more predictable. You know what I mean? Like, you know what you're going to get from, you're not like worried one day they're going to come in and be all scary and yell a lot, and some days they're going to be chill. Like, I feel like that's something that Zozel emulates really well.
Mhm.
It's like you kind of always know what you're going to get. Like, you're not on edge. Like, some days he might flip out. I mean, don't get me wrong, he does get mad sometimes, but it's kind of expected.
Yeah.
It's not like random or like bipolar like.
Yeah, I think that comes from like, if you think about the people that you know in your life, it's like the people that, a lot of the times, the people that go out and do things like Coach Z has done as an Army Ranger and all those places he's been. Like, he's seen so many different things. So it's like he's not going to have a prejudged opinion, He's like, anything can happen at any time. I think that's kind of how he thinks sometimes. And it's like, Ani grew up in New Jersey, right? Like, you've seen different things. So you're not, like, I think the people that go out and do different things, it brings that together. And I think that's like
Diversity.
exactly why you should go through different things. And that's why I'm happy I didn't stay home and was a walk-on for a D1 school. So I could be a D1 player that bad.
Right.
I think that's important. Even though I came to a place where there isn't much diversity, it helps me to show that, you know,
It's still different from what you're used to.
exactly. That's why, you know, you got to get up and go do stuff. And I think that's what you were talking about. Like when you went to Washington, you learned a lot, even though that's not that far, right?
Yeah. Well, I did have the opportunity. The biggest growth for me, and after I got my master's degree in teaching from SOU, I went to Korea and taught English in Korea. So I was able to travel around Asia and see life there, which was very exotic compared to here, just completely different, different ideas, foods, environment, everything. I started to learn a lot then, but the biggest culture shock for me is when I first moved to Decatur, Illinois, my wife's hometown,
right?
Which has it's just there's a large Black African-American population there, relatively large, and to see what it was like there, like racism was very clear there when I went there. There was a very clear division. I learned about the history, and that's central Illinois, that's not deep South. That's not, Alabama, Mississippi, the heart. And and then my wife's Black, and so when I first started dating her and just went out in the community and did things and traveled with their family and talked to their family and be around their family, just to see it with my own eyes, like the way, we were looked at weird. My wife and I, people would stare at us or glare at us, or going through the checkout line in the grocery store. I mean, most people are good. I believe most people in the world are good, but the fact that there is a lot of people that will have hatred for that, and treat you a certain way, or going on vacation with my in-laws and having people like scared to get in the elevator. I don't know if they're scared, but wouldn't get in the elevator with us, and seeing them treated a certain way, and then learning my mother and father-in-law were in school, growing up when schools were being integrated. That's not that long ago. Like you've mentioned a few times, these things are so recent.
Yeah.
So just to be able to see that and learn and experience it, and, understand things that my wife went through growing up that I never had to go through or went through or even understood. And then coming back and being in the diversity department in Tacoma and being on another side of it, to where I'm, hoping to do my best to help, people of all backgrounds and types, race, religion, all sorts of things. So to see that, and in that process, going to conferences and different meetings and hearing stories and seeing just the reality of our world, it was very enlightening.
Right.
So that's changed my life a lot. And when I say things are going in the right direction, my personal feeling is that things are more exposed these days. So when we see a lot of these things, racism, or racism, number one, what we're talking about, but also classism and all the different things where people are treated in different ways, and institutionally how those things work. I think that the visibility is it's more exposing it than it is increasing it. I think in certain areas, it probably, it hardens it, where
Right.
some people will be like, oh, I hate them even more. I hate these people even more. But I think there are, and maybe it's just because I myself have grown a lot, and I've seen a lot of my friends and, family and people, I've seen them wake up and be exposed to things, and them changing their minds.
Right.
So minds are changing for the positive. I'm sure there's minds changing for the negative too.
Yeah.
But I think it's as much exposing what's been going on for a long time than it is causing it. So that's kind of where I hope and I think things are slowly moving in the right direction, but it's going to be a long, slow process, and we need to, buckle up and be ready for the roller coaster that's going to be. So that's kind of my perspective, and how I've learned more about it. But also, like I said, being around the world, I went to South America. South America has a really strong racially discriminating background. Started against the natives, and then there was a lot of Black people that were brought into South America. I was in Brazil. There's a lot of racism in Brazil, and it's just I've just seen it in a lot of different places, and I've also seen a lot of different cultures and people and realize that everyone's the same deep down. Everyone wants to have money. They want to have, be able to put food on the table. They love their kids. They, for the most part, want to be good and productive and have a good life. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if I was in Bangkok, Thailand, or Reedsport, Oregon, or Medellin, Colombia. Like everyone's just trying to live and be good and have opportunities.
Yeah, I think like what you're talking about, like with the exposure, like pointing that out, I think like you said, that is working in a lot of good ways. But I think like a lot of that comes through social media, which is also giving a lot of the extreme sides of things a lot of force and ability to like come together. So I think that's something that's important that in the next few years is checked somehow, which I don't know how that's going to happen. So that's one thing I think that can halt it. And that's on, like I said, I think that's something that young people will have to, figure out. It's like, how do we stop all these online platforms from just dividing us even more? You know what I mean? Because you can do whatever you want on those for the most part. So, but like you said, it's push and pull both ways. And I agree with you. I think everyone, like most people, are good, and I think you have to think that way, or else it's like, what are we really doing here? If you don't think most people are good, then it's over at that point. I mean, that's something my dad always said. My dad is a philosophy professor, so he's a pretty wise guy.
I like your dad already. I don't know.
Did a lot of ethics stuff. Teaches ethics and philosophy, and has a funny accent. So he's a cool guy. You guys will meet him. He's awesome. But yeah, I think a lot of this like stuff, I like to think I'm pretty mature, like for my age. And I try to be open-minded and things like that. But like you said, it's, we got to be able to push the good things without, I think there can be too much good for both sides, you know what I mean? Which at the end of the day just leaves us at the same spot. So it's a cycle that hopefully we can break and push forward in that right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to touch on what both of you guys have talked about as far as like a certain demographic, at least in this country, of people who have their own ideology. And I mean, it obviously goes both ways as far as extremism on the left and the right, but specifically on the right. I mean, you were talking about your experience with Confederate flags and how it's been more prominent, you think, lately. And you were talking about your experience being in the Midwest, with your wife, and how that hasn't always been positive. I think a lot of it boils down to like fake patriotism, like that certain demographic just believes that they love their country so much, but in reality, like with their actions and their ideas, they sort of are super un-American. If you think about it, like in your case, like not respecting someone's rights and just the beliefs that anybody should get along. You know what I mean? Like they just are so stuck in their ways that certain people shouldn't be together. And, with you, like with the flags and representing something that's pretty un-American, like divisiveness and how this country has been brought together by all walks of life and, immigrants. So I just think that people were truly patriotic. They would respect people's rights and people's wishes to want to express themselves or protest how they want to or marry who they want to, straight, gay, bisexual. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that in their head, they think that they're being American, but in reality, it's super foreign.
Yeah, I think that's why it's pretty complex, right? Because it's like in our history, we've had presidents who probably were slave owners, you know what I mean? But those were presidents. I think
it's documented. Like
presidents,
they were slave owners.
Presidents of the United States, you know what I mean? So I think that's where it's like somehow they find it credible to like say that's patriotic.
Right.
Or that's in our roots. But no, I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
But I'm trying to clap back at people who would think like that, like life's changed.
Yeah.
And it's evolved. Like you can't think.
But then at the end of the day, we're still following that constitution that is, you know what I mean? So there's got to be some sort of way to, how do we get those people to not go through that way of thinking. You know what I mean? Is that just we have to wait for all the older people to go out? You know what I mean? Because we're like it. That,
Well, no,
do you know
I
what
don't
I
think-
mean? Though it's
I
like
know what you
the
mean, but I don't
Constitution is
think
written
that-
by people who, yes, they were Americans and they did a lot of good things, but they also did a lot of really, really bad things, which at that point weren't bad things in their head. But like, we're still following things from roots that have really like malicious and horrible principles tied to them.
That's a good point. I mean, I don't think that that's the way to go about it, is just waiting for that certain demographic to die off because they have offspring. You know, like they're passing their ideas on to other people, and I think that would just be a never-ending cycle. But no, that's a good point. I mean, I think you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Like, obviously, there is a lot of good things, but obviously, during those times, like slavery and whatnot was legal and fairly normal, and obviously, that's not a thing now. And gun laws have become a big thing, and
Right.
there are amendments and constitutional rights, and I think that needs to be looked at in a very intense way, just because, like I said, things are changing. Guns are a lot different than they were when those amendments were put in place, and the way they're used and the way they're readily available. So I just think that, yeah, we've been going by those laws for as long as people can remember, but it doesn't mean that it can't be examined again, you know?
Yeah.
We have to have a framework. You know, there has to be a structure for society to function well. I think most of the Constitution, and I can't say I'm a really constitutional scholar,
Right.
but when you look at the Constitution, it's still pretty well written. But the people, like you were saying, the people who wrote that Constitution, you know, I'm in full agreement with. They were slave owners, and they were doing a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
But the way it's written doesn't necessarily make that legitimate what they're doing. You know, we can still use the framework and just make modifications to it rather than just trying to like pull the rug out and start fresh. Because we do need some sort of, you know, framework and structure for society to function at its best.
Definitely. I just think our world is so different. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's got to be a point in time where we got to change something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is different. Like, these things change everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're able to look at that past, and I think that's, like, I keep going back to like young people and the hope. Like, I think that happens every generation. You know what I mean? It's like older people had hope that the younger people would start the Industrial Revolution, and they did it. You know what I mean? And that changes everything. So it's like, I think at some point you got to look at all those basic foundations, and is that still aligning with what we need and how the world works today? And I think some other countries have done a good job of maybe like trying to look at stuff like that. And it doesn't even, I'm not even saying we have to rewrite the Constitution. It's just little things that, you know, you have to change. It's like France is changing their workday rules and their constitution, or their, you know, laws on that, like trying to increase the productivity and the enjoyment of their citizens. Like, they're going to 4-day work weeks.
Yeah.
Like, how much does that help everyone's personality, and how is that going to impact the relationships they build? Like, how much better is your community going to be because people are more happy they're not at work all day?
Right.
Like, that's something I think about like that. And I think, like I said, I think young people can change the world. I think you have to have that outlook for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I
I
don't
agree.
even think it has to be super drastic. You
No.
know, like as far as like the bearing arms situation goes, like I have no problem if somebody wants to have a gun, but you can't convince me that anybody needs like anything other than like a pistol. You know what I mean?
I believe in rifles for hunters. Like, I believe.
Well,
in
right.
hunting,
If you have
but
like
yeah,
a
I don't
specific
think
license,
that's where you were going.
if
but
you have
yeah.
like a specific license to do something like that, then you know, so be it. Or like if you know,
Yeah.
provide in that sense, but nobody needs like a rifle or like something extensive that can really, I mean, guns in general can cause a lot of harm, obviously, but imagine the amount of lives that would be saved if these crazy, you know, lunatics wouldn't go places with all the ammo in the world and these huge magazines and rifles. If they just had a pistol, like the amount of lives that would be saved would be off the charts.
Yeah. I agree. It's a really hard issue to understand too, like to know how to do it, because there's so many people that I've listened to, which I agree, like people should not be shooting each other, and I don't need an AR-15 with a 60 round banana
Nobody
clip.
does.
Yeah. But also,
like, you're not protecting yourself from the Taliban.
But are we really going to, like, if we make them all illegal, like, then it's only going to be the bad guys that are able to get them. Like, are we really going to be able to keep them out of people's hands? And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be illegal. I'm just saying, like, there's logistical issues with it. Like, how do we even do this? We need discussion about it.
Yeah, I feel that. But how many times do you hear about, like, someone really being the hero and saving the day? Like, when someone opens fire, how many times does some citizen who is bearing arms come and save the day? And you know what I mean? Like, I've never heard of that, really.
Yeah.
Maybe once or twice.
I've heard of a couple instances where people have, like, saved, because both sides are always going to have their, like, argument. Like, one side says something and the other's like, oh, well, look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this person that says this. They're, that type of thing. Yeah.
But
very few. Very few.
I've got to think that if it wasn't so easily available, that it would be easier for people who we don't want to have guns to get them. Like, I kind of have to believe that, but I guess you're right. Like,
well, I mean, it's like you're saying, why would we, like, we know people are going to, if they want to get a gun, they'll probably figure out a way. Like, that's how the world works. But why would we not try to put everything in place to, like, why do we not have an AR ban? Like, why would we not try to prevent it? I'm not saying that's gonna stop everything, but why are we not trying? Like, we're just gonna make it totally okay. We're not gonna,
like, extreme penalties.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like the school shooting type thing. Like, it's, people want to talk about it. It's like, oh, bad guys, they're gonna find a way. They'll do it. It's like, yes, but we should be doing everything in our power to eliminate or reduce it. Because every time you do that, you're probably saving a kid or 15 kids' lives.
Right. This is kind of along the same lines, and we don't have time to get too deep into it. But to me, it's also the structure of society and the way, going back to what you said, the way our country's been founded and ran, and the institutions. Why are there so many people that want to go out and shoot up schools? And why are there so many people unhappy and so many people hurt, so many people traumatized that they would get to the point where they would do something like that, where they have such a lack of value of life? So the whole structure, like you were saying with the Constitution earlier, there needs to be a real hard look at it and understanding why there's so many people who feel disenfranchised and who feel like they have no power and frankly don't have any power. Why there's so many people living in poverty and just so many unhappy people. Why are they there? It's not, we're not going to be able to get into this discussion, but there's reasons for that. And some of them are the way that our society is structured.
For sure. I think it's everybody wants, like, instant gratification. No one can wait or work for things anymore. It's like right now, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, people are finding ways to scam money. People are finding ways to do this. People are finding ways to get rich in a week, or they think they are. But they're really doing stuff that's hurting someone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
like, I'm gonna steal from you just so I'm good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that greedy thing, and that instant gratification comes from, like, the phones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm bored. I'm gonna look. Now I'm not bored no more. Or it's like, I messaged this girl, why isn't she already talking to me?
Right.
Like, why am I not important? I think that ties into it for sure. Like what you're talking about, and that's changed everybody generation by generation for sure. Because now, like, your parents will be like, why don't you answer my call? Why don't you answer my call?
Right.
But it's like, I'm trying to be productive.
Right.
But why don't you answer my call? So it's kind of like works both ways, I think,
Yeah. We need to use the technology in the right way.
Yeah.
Use it as a tool to advance our city.
And as much as people want to say, like, oh, I'm not addicted, or I don't need it. It's things like that. They're like, oh, I only use it for this. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's changed. Like, your brain isn't meant to look at this screen like that, or maybe like, so that's got to affect you in some way,
Absolutely. I'm not proud to say that I am addicted, and I, from time to time I'll be able to break that addiction, but it's so easy to get sucked right back in.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what else are you going to be addicted to? There's way worse things,
Right.
but the things that you see on there are, tough. So that's it's the world we live in these days. It's like you have to be on your phone.
Right.
You really have to. You got to talk to some people you need to. You got to make sure they're safe. You got to check your bank account.
Yeah.
You got to
check your email for
Yeah.
your work or your
you got to be
teacher
ready
or-
for your kids to call you. You got to
Yeah.
People are putting school on your phone. Like people be like, "What you doing?" I'm like, I'm on school." But then you're distracted from what's right in front of you at the same time.
So what? See, it seems to me that you're clearly driven to greatness. What drives you to strive for greatness?
I think I love my family and I love all the people I'm with, but I didn't grow up in the most. All the people surrounding me love me and I love them. And I have great relationships with all of them, but I didn't grow up in a loving household, loving marriage, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to disrespect my parents, but it wasn't what I would want to build. I think that's why I want to have a family and make that household for younger people that I would want growing up. I think that strives me. That's what I want to make money for. I also just think the more you strive to be good, the more people you'll bring with you. That's kind of something I always talk about. And my roommates are always like, "Well, bro, you read too much ethics. You do too much stuff like that. Like you're always thinking about the right thing to do." Which they're
That
just
seems like a good thing.
No, they're just messing with me.
Yeah.
Like that they're great guys too. But it's like I really believe like good things happen to good people. No matter what you do. Like I think that's why I've gotten so much out of coming to SOU, because I always just was nice to people, nice to my professors, did my best on the court. I show up early, I'm the last to leave almost every day. I think that's all you can do and just keep pushing forward. I want to do something to help, communities of people. That's kind of why I did the healthcare administration bachelor's degree. And then did my business thing. I've always thought about running a hospital or some kind of nonprofit thing like that. And I think my dad would be a good mentor. He's a healthcare specialist in the state of Nevada. So I kind of get that from him, like looking after people and philosophies and systems, how to manage people, maybe without surgery or something like that. Just, techniques and bringing people together. So I think that's it. I'm not the most like outspoken guy or like outgoing. I'm actually pretty shy if you like actually really knew me, unless or like if you just saw me, I'm probably not going to spark a conversation with you. Like, I'm pretty introverted. But at the end of the day, I can always have a conversation with anybody. I feel like I think that's how it should be. Like I used to always be like a little more shy like that, but then my dad, like I would walk with my dad and anybody sees my dad's like, "Oh, what's up?" Hey, I think that's like something that doesn't happen anymore, like you just walk by and people are just head down, headphones in, blah, blah, blah. So I like to think about that. And I think every interaction you have is a potential to be impactful. So you got to remember that.
Yeah.
I think that's a culture thing too. Cause like when I was in Asia too, like you never said what's up to the person walking across the street from you. But when I lived in New Jersey, you always say, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?" So I feel like it's culture and like upbringing too, to like the interactions part.
Yeah, well, that could change it. Someone's day, someone's life. You're like, you don't know what they're thinking at that moment in time. So, I mean, I've been around, people who have had issues, mental health issues and things like that. And I've kind of been the person to help. And that's not an easy position to be in, not a position I would ever want to put somebody in. But sometimes you got to be that guy. You got to be that person to help. And I think that's what happens when you come from places that are built with good. You know what I mean? Like, and I envy my girlfriend's family because they are like that. They'll bring anybody into their house. They'll feed you. They're gonna treat you. They're not gonna grill you with questions. Why are you here? Who are you with? Well, Hey, Tez, you got any friends that need Thanksgiving dinner? Bring them over. And they're sitting at the table like their family. Like I got friends who barely know them. Every time they come over, they come up and get a steak, come get a meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
Can I
what.
be your friend?
Yeah, that's any time. Like they're like, when can I cook jambalaya for the team? They don't have anybody on the team.
I like jambalaya.
Like we used to go up there because Connor used to be on the team. We used to go up there all the time for team dinner, and they're like, "Yeah, pick a good day. We'll do jambalaya." I'm like, "This is what like the world needs more of." You know what I mean? And not everyone has the means to do that.
Right.
And you don't have to. It's just it doesn't have to be jambalaya. It can just be hello,
Right.
you know? And I think everything has a meaning like that. So I think that's what drives me, just being a good person. I think that's where you got to start and where you should finish at the end of the day.
I love it. Yeah, my hot take of the day is that we're gods. We're all gods, meaning we're all creators. You know, we create whatever we want to create or however we can create it. And I don't mean that as a disrespect to God, you know, the ultimate source of life. I mean it as we're all a small piece of that, and we all have God inside of us, and we're all able to create, just like Coach Zozo's created the program how he wants it. The one day we're all like, I was like, Aden, you want to do a podcast? I don't remember what I asked, but you asked these guys if we want to do a podcast. Now we're in here making a podcast. You know, it's not like a ton of people listen to it now, but they could. And we're putting out the message that we want to put out. We're creating that, you know, creating it how we want it to be. So that's kind of to bring everything together that we talked about today. And I feel like we could sit in here and talk for hours and hours because you're an excellent conversationalist, and I would love to hear more about what you have to say. So maybe we can do another round at some point. But we do have to wrap up because practice is about to start.
Let's go.
You guys have anything else you want to add?
Nah, thanks for having me. This is
Pineapple
fun.
belongs on pizza.
Ooh, hot take: Blazers are making the playoffs.
Are or aren't?
Are.
Oh,
Does the play-in
And the
count?
Suns, huh?
Does the play-in count? Are they going to make the non-play-in, or are they going to be a top 6 seed?
They won't be a top.
So
They
they'll
won't
be
be
the
top.
play-in.
Yeah, but if they make it out, they got Dame. Extra hot take: Suns are going to the Western Conference Finals.
against the Warriors.
Hopefully not.
That is a hot take. There's a 0 chance that they make the finals
I said Western Conference Finals.
or Western Conference.
And we're out.